Hello, y'all. This is Brett. Out walking around in the garden. You can see I'm inside the bean trellis. I got a little story about the bean trellis since I'm in it. Made me think about it. Last Sunday, not today, but last Sunday, me and Miss Cindy was on the way to church. It takes about 25 minutes, maybe 30, depending on how things is going to get there. We was having a little discussion going down the road, and I was talking about picking beans the previous Saturday, and it come a little shower while I was in under the bean trellis. And then, ain't now, the leaves are starting to turn on me bad. It hadn't rained enough to feed them. Anyway, those leaves were sticking up. I wasn't getting wet. I was picking beans, and I could see it drizzling outside of the bean trellis. It made me think about, how it was almost like a protective cover. I said, it's kind of like a sanctuary. I said, it's just so peaceful out there in the garden. I said, it's my place to go to talk with the Lord. We can have our conversations out here between me and Him. And it reminded me of a story I don't think I've told on YouTube. Let's see, about a year and a half ago, I was a bus driver, school bus driver. I have given up my route. I no longer drive a school bus. But I had a spot picked out. Used it for years. My route was a rural route. I run a little tar and chip, or what you call tar and gravel road. Wasn't very wide. Meeting the car on it in the school bus was kind of rough at times. It might have been a lane and a half wide in the wide spots. Everybody meeting someone else had to get off the side of the road. In other words, you had to hit the grass. Well, a school bus being heavy, and there's no sides to a back road. Most of the time there's a ditch or a bluff around here, being in the hills. I found a spot I could pull over, and it was my peaceful spot. It was my prayer spot. And it happened to be across the road from a family I know. They've known me all my life. They're an older couple than what me and Miss Cindy is. And I knew I was safe sitting there. Big farm, hundreds of acres. But the neat thing is, it had a bunch of older trees. It had a spring that come out of a rock bluff there. And it had a bridge and rock bluff. And it was nice. They had it cleaned up for where they could have family time, I'd pull up there in the morning. My first pickup on my route was about 6 o'clock, 6:05 sometimes, depending on what time of the year. So I got there early. I'd pull the bus over, leave it running, lock the brakes, and I'd spend a few minutes in prayer, getting ready for the day. I see people pass. I'm sure I aggravated a few. Being sitting there, it was a little hard to get around a school bus because being so heavy, you can't get it off the road. So I'd get over on the edge, but I still made it rough on them. I don't know, it was probably a year before I quit driving. The owner of the farm, man, met me in town one day. We was in the store together. And he was telling me about, he had a man hunting down there, and he said he was aggravated. He said the school bus pulled up in the morning, and he said he just sits there. He said he sat there for 15 minutes every morning I've been down there. He said, if you don't mind me asking, he said, I don't care if you park there. He said, why are you sitting there so early in the morning? I said, well, my route starts about 6:03, 6:05, depending on which kids I'm picking up. I said, I get there early to pray. And he didn't know what to say to me. He just kind of stood there for a minute. He's like, oh, okay. He said, that's okay. He said, no big deal. He said, I was just wondering why you always seem to pull up there and stop. Why that spot? I said, it's a pretty spot to me. And I said, you got a beautiful farm, and I really love the spring. And I just found it as a peaceful spot to pray. And there's enough for him to get the bus off. People will get around. He said, I have no problem with you sitting there. He said, just wanted to know what was going on. He said, I'm not there a lot. He said, I'm gone. He said, they was telling me about you sitting there. He said, I have no problem whatsoever with it. And I said, well, it's my prayer spot. If you don't mind me sitting there, I said, I'll be back there again Monday through Friday. He said, more power to you. He said, you sit there anytime you want to. He said, you can come down on the weekends and pray. I wasn't thinking about it. The man's a Gideon. He's out a lot preaching all over the United States, probably. I don't know where all he goes. I don't know how far they travel, but he understands what I was doing there now. That went on, I don't know, probably another year. I quit driving the bus. I run into him in the store again. He said, what's happened to you? He said, you're not sitting down at the end of my drive. He said, I hadn't seen you in quite a while. He said, you still driving? I said, no. He said, okay. He said, I knew I hadn't seen you down there. He said, you know you're still welcome to come down there and pray anytime you want to. I said, yes, sir, I appreciate that. And I said, yeah, I miss parts of it, but I said, I don't drive anymore. This has become my peaceful spot, I guess you can say. I find peace in the garden, which I always have, but it's become more of a peaceful spot since I gave up the bus route. I'm out here early in the morning, I'm out here late in the evening. If the weather's bearable, I'm out here quite a bit. Getting my stuff done. Picking my tomato jungle and getting things started. Picking okra. I don't know if that made any sense or not, but I had to tell it. I hope you enjoyed my story. It's just another side of the garden, I guess you can say. Another reason why I'm out here so much. Thanks for listening. God bless.